Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. We're gonna try something new and a new concept I've got for this episode. And if you guys like it, say so in the comments. If you like it, I could probably come up with some more. I've got 5 for this episode. I'm calling this Perfect Sides. Hey, you guys who have listened to vinyl for a long time, and I guess this applies to tapes, to cassettes as well. There's a natural divide between side A, side B. You have to get up, it kind of breaks the spell, you got to flip it over. Some of us love that ritual, but it does kind of create, two very distinct sides to a record, and where each side sort of has its own flow, its own mood. And sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, one side is sort of distinctly better than the other. Better. And even the other side could be great too. It could be a great complete record. But sometimes there's just that perfect side of vinyl. And you guys know what I'm talking about. It just kind of stands up on its own as almost its own perfect work. Yeah, I mean, through the years of listening to vinyl, I'm sure you guys have experienced the same thing. You kind of start to notice those. You come up with, man, that is a perfect side. So that's what this episode's about. Perfect sides. So I've picked 5, and I'm not ranking them or anything, but we'll just go to chronological order of release. And so I want to talk about those 5, and then when we're done in the comments, if you guys come up with your own perfect 5 sides, and after I finish coming up with this, I already started thinking of some more that I could do in future episodes. Editor actually, when editor and I were talking about it, he suggested a great one, which I'll definitely use in the next episode. But anyway, these are my 5 for this inaugural episode of Perfect Sides. So starting 1968, we're going side 4. That's right. It's from a double album, but side 4 of Jimi Hendrix Experience Electric Ladyland. Now, I mean, this is in a lot of ways a perfect album all the way through. I mean, sides 1, 2, and 3 are awesome. But he definitely saved the best for last. You get to that side 4, and it is a perfect side of vinyl. So, what do you have on side 4? It starts off with Still Raining, Still Dreaming, which is kind of this second half of a tune that was started on side 3, Rainy Day, Dream Away, which is more of a real song. Still Raining, Still Dreaming kind of fades in as sort of this long, just great soul groove. It's just a perfect opener on this record, or on this side. Then goes right into House Burning Down, which I think is one of his underrated songs, one of his kind of rare like overtly political songs. But I mean, it's an amazing song. It's got an incredible drive, got it's got a darkness through it, and some of his better lyrics too. It's really good. And then of course you go into, and we've talked about this before, but what I think is the greatest cover song of all time, Hendrix's version of Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower, where he completely transforms that song so much that even Bob Dylan considers Hendrix's version kind of the definitive arrangement, right? And then closing it out with Voodoo Child, Slight Return, amazing use of the wah pedal, and just effects laden, and it's just got this incredible drive, and it's one of the hardest rockers in his whole repertoire. So that is the side. It's those 4 tunes. There's variety in there. Each one of them could be seen as kind of a peak in a different style of his, and it's just a perfect side of vinyl. All right. My next one, moving up to 1971, I am going with Elton John, side A of Madman Across the Water. Madman Across the Water. Now, I have long felt side A of this record is the best side of Elton John, period. Any record. I think side A of Madman Across the Water holds up against any side on any record of his. Prove me wrong. Argue it in the comments. Uh, Now, this is one where there is a pretty great disparity between side A and side B. Now, the second side's not bad, but it's a noticeable kind of step down from just the peaks of side one. What's on side one, you ask? Opens up with Tiny Dancer. I mean, what do I need to say about that, right? I mean, maybe the perfect 70s Elton song. Goes right into Leave On, which is another classic, and a very different, kind of different feel, different instrumentation a bit than Tiny Dancer. And then I guess kind of the deeper cut out of these four tracks on side one, at least the one that's sort of probably least known, but it's a great Elton deep cut. That's Razorface. I think that's a fantastic song. And then closing side one is the title track, Madman Across the Water, which is one of my very favorite Elton John songs. Always love that song. I love it's almost progressive rock, and it's kind of ambition, great guitar playing, Davy Johnston, and it's just I think that's one of Elton's greatest songs. And so side one of this record is perfect. Now, like I said, there is a noticeable, I think, dip when you get to side two. It's not bad, but it's just in comparison to side one, it's not there. So, if side two could have even come close to the peaks of side one, I think this would be Elton's greatest record. All right. Number three, I talk about disparities between the first side and the second side. I think out of these five, this has the most disparity. And on this one, it's side one that I don't like very much at all. But side two is amazing. One of the best sides of this band's entire discography. Going with 1975, ZZ Top's Fandango. Now, if you know much about this record, side one is live. And, that should have been great. ZZ Top had an amazing live reputation in the 70s. And so you would think, all right, putting a live side, perfect. But just the choices they made, it's kind of this long medley that goes on for most of the side, cover of Jailhouse Rock, and it just, yeah, it doesn't do it for me at all. Yet side two, which is all studio tracks, is amazing. What do you got on side two? Opens up with Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, one of these great 70s ZZ Top grooves. Then Blue Jean Blues, one of their best, kind of slow blues numbers. And great lyrics too, talking about an ex-girlfriend who took his favorite pair of blue jeans. Um, then Balinese, which has one of those great riffs in there. Again, another great deep cut, not a hit or anything. I've always been fond of Balinese, the band I played in when I was in high school. And I've mentioned this, me and my buddies, some of my high school buddies backed up these two older guys. We had a lot of fun playing in the summers. And one of those guys, Larry, um, killer guitar player. He'd always, we were warming up, he'd go into that Balinese riff. This is awesome. Brings back good memories. Both of those guys, Cliff and Larry, are deceased. Rest in peace. Then into Mexican Blackbird, which is awesome. And then it closes with two great hits, Heard It on the X and Tush. I mean, you've all heard Tush. I love Heard It on the X, though. One of those, rare songs where Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill would trade trade lines in the vocals. And both had great distinct singing voices. And Dusty Hill didn't get enough, lead vocals, ZZ Top stuff. They should have done that more, man. They both had great voices. Anyway, Heard It on the X. It's awesome. Yeah, I've always said, Tres Hombres, of course, is the album that preceded this. Which, go back to our ZZ Top video we did way back when. See how high I rank Tres Hombres. And I always said that side two of this is the equal of Tres Hombres. And man, if they had just been able to fill out another side with just even close to this great, studio tracks. This record would be right up there with Tres Hombres, I think. Perfect side. All right, moving into the 80s here. Well, 1980, barely the 80s. Going with Dire Straits, Making Movies, side one. This is another one where side one, I think, is substantially greater than side two. Side one only's got 3 tracks, but they're all kind of these epic tracks. Opening with probably, it's not the longest, but I think it's their most epic song, maybe their greatest song, Tunnel of Love, 8 minutes. Of course, they would expand it greatly in concert to be 15 minutes or whatever, but the studio version is grand in itself. 8 minutes. That is probably the greatest Dire Straits song. It's just perfect. It's epic. That great piano in there, but from Roy Bittan, by the way. Then going into Romeo and Juliet, probably their most celebrated ballad. That wonderful, kind of national steel guitar, that Knopfler usually pulls out on at least one track with a dobro. I always call it a dobro, although it's not really a dobro because it's a regular guitar, but it's just got the steel, I guess resonator guitar you call it. It's got the resonator in there. I've got one. It's over in the corner, but not as cool as Knopfler's. And then closing with Skate Away, which is, a great kind of 6 minute. It's got that great kind of slow fade in with those drums. And that's a great song too. Not as celebrated or as played nearly as often as Tunnel of Love and Romeo and Juliet, but a great song nonetheless. Now side two is good. We got Espresso Love on there. What else we got on? Oh, there they are. Solid Rock's all right. Hand in Hand, and Less Boys is one of the worst songs in Dire Straits' whole repertoire, unfortunately, closing this record. But side one is so perfect and so epic. It really kind of makes up for some of side two's deficiencies, I think. All right, my final pick for this episode of Perfect Sides, I am going with, I think, the perfectest side of all these picks. 1987. I've been a U2 defender and I continue to do so. I think side one of the Joshua Tree is a perfect side. I mean, yeah, from the production standpoint, the songwriting standpoint, the flow, it's perfect. One, you've got that 1, 2, 3 punch, where the Streets Have No Name, which is one of the great album openers ever, one of the great concert openers ever. Just that synthesizer intro, and then Edge fades in with that echoing arpeggio, and it just and then just bursts out. What an opener! Going right into Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and then With or Without You. I mean, that's the first 3 songs, man. Now, I know some of those are overplayed. Some of you guys probably feel like you don't need to ever hear those songs again. I'm not that way. I've heard them a billion times, but I can hear them a billion times more. Love those songs. But just, I mean, again, try and go back to 87 when this first came out, before those songs were played to death. Putting that on and hearing boom, 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 one after the other of those 3 songs. And then probably one of their heaviest songs in their whole repertoire, at least up to this point. And they kind of get into more experimental ground in the 90s, but Bullet the Blue Sky. And then after that, just that going into the sparse, beautiful, melancholy Running to Stand Still to close out that side. I mean, that is the perfect side to me. I don't know if there's a more perfecter side ever than side one of Joshua Tree. I don't know. Love it, love it, love it. So there you go. All right. Those are my 5 picks, at least for this episode. I've already got in my head, more perfect sides we could do for future episodes. But what do you guys think in the comments? Perfect sides of albums. Let's hear it. Please subscribe to the channel. We really do appreciate it. Hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, and we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.